Counting atoms worksheet. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to differentiate between three different kinds of molecules, and we're going to determine how many atoms are present and how many of each there are. So I'm going to use three different examples. So the first example is going to be a very basic one, NaOH. First thing we need to do is we need to differentiate between the atoms that are present. And we're going to do that by seeing a capital letter. Whenever there's a capital letter, it's a new element. So for instance, Na is a new element, O is a new element, and H is a new element. And we're going to multiply that by the subscript. So in this case, each one has no subscript. If it has no subscript, that's going to mean that there's 1. So Na times 1, O times 1, H times 1. So that gives us 1 Na, 1 oxygen, and 1 hydrogen for a total of 3 atoms. So that's the easiest one. The second kind, what we're going to do, is we're going to do something a little harder. So if I did CaOH2, we're introducing the brackets. You can see the brackets on the right-hand side around the OH. Now we're going to do the same strategy, and we're going to differentiate between the elements. So we're going to have Ca, O, and H present. All right, Ca, O, and H, and we're going to multiply them by their subscript. So in this case, Ca has 1, so multiply by 1. Oxygen has 1, and hydrogen has 1. Now the difference here is we have a bracket. For a bracket, just like in math, when you have something like 2 times x plus 6, right, this would be 2 times x, which would be 2x, and 2 times 6, which would be 12. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to take the 2, multiply it by the 1, 2, multiply it by the oxygen, 1 there. Calcium has no brackets, we're just going to say times 1. Oxygen times 2, and hydrogen times 2. Now we're going to multiply that through. So we're going to have 1 calcium, we're going to have 2 oxygen, and we're going to have 2 hydrogen for a total of 5 atoms. Now the last example is the hardest example. We're going to have MgPO4 2, 3, and we're going to put a 2 out front. So we're going to introduce a third kind of thing. It's called a coefficient. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say which elements are present. We have Mg, we have P, and we have O. So we're going to write Mg, we're going to write P, we're going to write O. And we're going to multiply them by their subscript. Mg has a subscript of 3. We can see it right there. P is a subscript of 1, because there's nothing shown, and O has a subscript of 4. Now we're going to multiply them by the brackets. Mg has no bracket around it, so we're just going to say 1. P, there's a 2 right there, right? So we're going to say 2. And oxygen, there's also a 2. So we're going to multiply that by 2. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply everything by the coefficient. So there's a coefficient of 2 in front, and it's kind of like saying square brackets like that if you were talking about math. So you're going to put that around everything. So we're going to multiply everything by 2. So for magnesium, it's going to be 3 times 1, which is 3, 3 times 2, which is 6. So 6 magnesiums. For phosphorus, it's going to be 1 times 2 is 2, times 2 is 4. So it's going to be 4 phosphorus. And for oxygen, it's going to be 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16. So 16 oxygens for a total of 26 atoms. Excuse me, and it doesn't get any harder than that.